All right, everyone. Welcome to a beautiful July 27th. This is We're Offended, You're Offended with Kim and Tyler. And you know what? Today was a beautiful day. My dog is running away. Come here, puppy. Okay, anyways, what are some things we're going to be talking about today? Oh, actually, we have some ads that we have to get out of the way first before I forget.
Heck yeah, we do.
Okay, so firstly, I wanted to give an ad read to air. So it turns out air is actually one of the most valuable commodities in the world. In fact, I'm pretty sure you're using a lot of it right now, you mouth breathers. But if you go to www.air.com and you enter the promo code YO, no, sorry, if you enter promo code WOYO, you'll get 20% off your first purchase of air. So thank you to Air for keeping us alive. So let's start with
Ooh, air.
let's start with our first article today. So this came from Daily Mail UK, and the article is titled "English Operated as a Language of the Colonizers." Students at a top university that produced several world-renowned authors are told. The School of Literature, Drama, and Creative Writing to decolonize its courses. It is the latest controversial move by institutions to make lessons more diverse. Critics claim the move is anti academic and corrosive to political dogma. So, to continue on with this article, it says students at a university that have produced a string of world renowned authors are to be taught that English operated as a language of a colonizer. The School of Literature, Drama, and Creative Writing at the University of East Anglia, which boasts Nobel Prize laureate uh, I can never get this name right.
We're not good at pronouncing names, so forgive us, people.
Akuzo Ishiguro, and the Booker Prize winner Ian McEwan and Annie Enright. Among its alumni is to decolonize its courses following demands from students. So,
What I would really like to know, is who exactly are these students that are complaining about the English language?
I wish I could actually give any kind of understanding or give any coherent answer that would actually make sense. It seems like a bunch of people that, well, seem like they don't have anything that they really need to fight for, or you know, anything that they actually need to do in life to actually survive. So now they're looking for things to fight over, and I. It seems like such a funny thing that the way that you communicate with the world is bad. So, yeah.
Well, naturally, I mean, we've already gotten out of the way the bajillion different genders that's in the world now and everything else. So, I mean, God forbid you actually fight against or for something that means something. Let's just fight for bullshit.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of what it seems like. Like the article continues on, says none of this is about English literature. It is using English literature as a medium to make a statement about how morally superior their students are. So these are obviously people that want an education, that want to have a higher form of learning, and they decided that apparently the way that they want to communicate just doesn't seem good. Documents
Oh,
obtained using Freedom of Information rule shows the department will abandon its Literature and History 2 module, which includes works by Shakespeare and Ishiguro's The Remains of the Day. This literally is erasing history. It's erasing things that you grew up about, things that helped give you that philosophical bend in the ideas of art and literature. But, let's just whitewash and get rid of everything.
hold on.
What?
So is this what going to university is about nowadays? Is fighting for I don't even know why. It's not even about learning anymore. It's literally about bitching and complaining about absolutely anything you can think of other than learning to do something that's worthwhile. You're going to now complain at a university level. People are complaining about English being racist
Yeah.
and trying to erase history because that's what they're there for. That's what they're spending thousands upon thousands of their money. Well, it's probably more their parents' money just to do is to sit there, bitch and moan, and to complain about things that don't even matter.
Well, I guess they see it as well. One, well, I think I've brought this up before. Like you and me have talked before, but with us being married, I kind of have to talk to you. So,
Yeah, well, most of the time.
but,
Most of the time it's just grunts.
but so there has been a push that Shakespeare was actually African. He was black, and that they ended up changing his skin color so that he was more marketable. Because if he was black, they would deem him non-desirable in his art. So it's just these weird ideological pushes, and people think, oh well, this is just some fringe ideology. No, policies are being signed and pushed, and these are people that are educators that are pushing these types of ideas.
Hold on. But if Shakespeare actually is black and they're trying to erase him, isn't that racist? As opposed to erasing the English language, wouldn't that then be racist? And
And
regardless of the color, erasing someone out of history for speaking a language, isn't that racist?
you would think so, but it all has to do with the how many victimhoods do you have? The more victimhood you have, the better you can, I guess, climb the pyramid, I suppose. But instead of actually being able to become something and achieve something because of whatever background or whatever hardships that came into your life, instead of doing something in spite of that, you decide to, well, I'm going to wear this as a badge of pride, and now the world needs to conform to my victimhood, my truth, instead of understanding the world and then trying to better it, not try to encourage segregation. Well, there are certain communities, certain world powers that tried to take over the world. A couple of years ago, that they were quite in support of segregation. And yeah, I thought that we moved beyond that, but apparently, it's coming back in full force.
No, because apparently nobody knows how to actually work hard for anything nowadays or, get an education, move forward in the world. It's all literally about who can cry the loudest, who is the most special of all the snowflakes.
Oh,
That is literally what, like, that's what you're spending your life doing. That's making it. That's climbing to the top of the ladder is who can cry the loudest.
I think a lot of this has to do with that. A lot of the people that are in school, in like universities, that are in these types of programs, haven't had to struggle to do anything. They have a very twisted, I think, ideology in how the world works, how I think how different communities seem to operate. And I I don't understand why there's such a push to push white people out, and then the same white people are advocating to marginalize and segregate other communities that, to be honest, would need some type of representation or something like that. But it should be coming from those communities themselves, not someone saying, well, because of my privilege, because of the position that I'm in, I need to do something on behalf of someone else. Well, no, then you should step aside. You should let that community speak instead of speaking for them. Because I'm pretty sure most people don't care. Most other minority groups don't care about this type of stuff. But of course, it's going to be some white person that has to fuck it up because they just can't. They can't think of fighting for anything for themselves or to bring other people up. They have to bring everything else down. So I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if maybe I don't know if it's going to, once people finally realize how racist and how ass backwards this is, maybe they'll finally understand it. But I really don't see it changing.
I, I can't even.
Yeah, no, it's
I don't understand people. I really don't. I don't know how this is what society has become.
So, to continue on with this article a little bit, Chris McGovern, chairman of the Campaign for Real Education, said, "The world of education seems to become madder by the day. Demonizing great writers because they were white is an absurdity. Mm-hmm. Young people need to understand that a capacity for good or evil is not color dependent." Man, whoever this Chris McGovern,
High five, Chris.
yeah, it's such a crazy thing that such a small minority of people, and I don't mean minority as in skin color or community, a small group of very loud people
Yeah.
are saying that this needs to change, this needs to be abolished, or this needs to be, I don't know, redressed and completely overhauled because I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like 5 or 10 people were complaining about this, and then they big sweeping changes to policies. So you know what? If it's coming in London, you see it happening in the United States that they're trying to repeal civil rights laws. Instead of treating everyone as equal, they're treated as they want to see segregation.
Like people uh, like honestly, do people not realize that there's so much garbage going on in the world right now, and that's all I see is literally all these people are segregating everybody, and people aren't even realizing it. They're pretending that they're fighting for something, that they're, oh, I look at me, I'm so good, I'm fighting for this race or that race or this religion or that religion. Look at me, I'm so awesome. But yet you're actually promoting segregation, like 110%.
Well, I think a lot of these people in these types of communities don't understand that the leftist ideology and the extreme right, the KKKs, the white nationalists, those types of people, they very much are in line with the same ideology. They want segregation. They want communities to stay to themselves. Don't try to don't try to actually work together. Don't try to find common ground. Understand that we're all humans. We're all one race. But
Exactly.
well, it's the this leftist ideology, this leftist bend that's been so prominent in North America and is spreading like an absolute cancer that I think should be cut out. I absolutely think this type of stuff needs to be cut out.
Agreed. Was there horrible shit that had happened in the past to people?
Mm-hmm.
100%. Was it right? Absolutely not. Did me or any of my immediate family take part in any of these horrible acts? No. Like, I don't understand why it is that we're still having this fight. This fight should be done. We should all just be one. Like, it's just absolutely absurd to me.
Well, I think because it ties to because something bad happened in history, therefore this whole thing is racist. That's the very narrow-minded idea is like the argument about the slave catchers back in the states, or like when the states was still like the 13 colonies. Even though those are two separate things, the police didn't come from slave catchers, therefore police are slave catchers, therefore police are racist, therefore North America is racist. That's the kind of jumps that they make. Even
Yeah,
though
it's
every
quite the
single
fucking
law that we
leap.
have is supposed to be equal, all people are supposed to be equal under the law. Except nowadays, some people are more equal than others, where there's preferential treatment or protected classes instead of, well, everyone. It's illegal to discriminate, period, let alone to have laws above and beyond to protect a protected class. So it's, I don't know. It's quite a weird world that we live in, where people are treated differently just because of their skin color or their sexual orientation or their religion.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they literally bring it into absolutely anything. There's a game that I play. Well, you're very familiar with it. It's called MechWarrior Online. And they have a mech in there that is a grand dragon.
Mm-hmm.
On the forums, people started just going crazy talking about how this is a racist mech. It's referring to the KKK. They want it removed. And we personally know somebody in our unit who is a black man from Texas and a retired cop. And he was even on the forums telling people that they're idiots and that this is nowhere near being racist, like to just stop. There was a lot of people who spoke up on those forums that were of color that are telling people this is not a racist thing. And there's still all these white people that are crying, complaining it's racist and they want it removed. It's just insane.
Well, it's the same thing. It's like, what kind of started this off was there's nothing to fight for. Your food, shelter, everything. Everything is taken care of. Your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Everything is taken care of. So now that you're looking for something to fight for instead of actually fighting, I would say for equality, where everyone is equal. Everyone is treated as equal. I don't know, but yeah, it's quite a scary thing where even English is now starting to come under fire for being racist. But I guess we will. Any last thoughts on this, or do you want to move on to the next one?
I'm just curious as to what our language is going to become if English is racist. Are we just going to be talking in gurbles like babies? That's going to be our new freaking language, or just like Mars attacks. That's how we're going to communicate because apparently we're not allowed to use English words anymore.
Well, and I think the thing that's most dangerous with this is when you start changing words and what they mean. We're unable to communicate with each other because we no longer have a basis of understanding, a basis of communication. So once that actually happens, and you can see they've already done it, where if you misgender someone, you're considered a bigot, you're a whatever phobe or isist that that anyone could think of, even though it could be a genuine mistake, or maybe you're just an absolute piece of shit. That's also a possibility that because you're rude. So, but I don't know.
I'm wondering. Oh, sorry. I'm wondering if anybody else who's listening to this actually heard my eyes roll when you started talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, with that, let's move on to the next article.
Can't wait.
Okay, so this came from CTV News, good old Canadian news agency. So it is titled that China reports first human death from rare monkey bee virus. So a Chinese man has died after he contracted an extremely rare infectious disease known as monkey bee virus from primates, according to health officials who says it's the first documented human case in China. The 53-year-old veterinary surgeon worked in an institute specializing in non-human primate breeding and experimental research in Beijing, according to the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention.
Oh, this is starting to sound a little familiar. All right.
Yeah, so it almost seems like similar to something that we're dealing with today, or maybe one of the other many viruses that has come out of China because of their lackluster security protocol, or maybe in the conspiracy realm that they let it out. But I don't think they actually did that. But they definitely have a track record of lax safety protocols and viruses getting out of labs. So who knows? I think that this article is actually a little old. I think in the U.S. they've showed that there are many people. I think something like 200 people have actually contracted this virus now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's only getting worse. It's another thing that China's gonna fuck up the whole world, and then everyone else is gonna have to pick up the rest of the pieces. But while China just steamrolls ahead and yeah, keeps taking over the world, we're gonna have us creating the vaccines and bailing everything out. So it's yeah.
Yeah, like those masks that were sent. Cool. Yeah.
Oh, what the ones that were defective or
Fuck yeah.
yeah, there
Yeah.
were a few of
Here,
those.
protect yourself from the virus.
Yeah, right.
This is this is pretty special. So another fucking animal shit disease coming out of China.
Hmm. Yeah.
What are we gonna call this one? The Curious George?
Yeah, I think we could go with that, or the yeah, I think we can go with a Curious George, or yeah, I got nothing. I think yeah, we're gonna call this a Curious George because we're all gonna be wondering how the fuck did another one happen.
So no, first that they were experimenting with like bats and shit, and of course they didn't learn their lesson then. So let's do monkeys. Next it'll be caterpillars or some other weird ass dumb disease that's gonna come out and we're all gonna get infected by.
Well, and one thing that I think that people don't really understand. So with with COVID, that there were a lot of articles and a lot of information was coming out that it was considered a man-made virus. And that doesn't mean like, oh, they designed it so that it would kill people. No, it's quite a common thing to take what would be a benign virus in nature, have it in a lab, and they'll try to make it more deadly so that they can create a vaccine that, in the event that this natural virus mutates and becomes more problematic, they have a way of dealing with it.
KKK. Hold on.
Relax.
So okay. So they're trying to make a disease that isn't life threatening. They're trying to make it life threatening in the event that it does escape, that they'll actually have a cure for it. But why did it take us so long to get a cure for COVID then?
No, but not necessarily that they have a vaccine or whatever made for it. They will try to make it more, say, more contagious, or what could be seen, like what they could see in nature that could end up developing. So they might not necessarily have a vaccine for it, but they can at least understand, say, how it would transmit from host to host, or and so. But the COVID thing, it was, I think it's kind of widely more accepted that it was more of a, it was lab made, got out, and it was kind of just hidden
Yeah,
because China didn't say shit.
of course not.
The World Health Organization said that it couldn't be transmitted from human to human.
Yeah, keep the flights going. Let's keep it on.
Yeah, even though Taiwan was like, whoa, hey guys, no, this is deadly. Like, no, people are getting infected by this, and
Why are they going to listen to them?
well, China doesn't consider Taiwan as an independent country, and
Exactly.
yeah, so there's a lot of weirdness going on with that, but yeah. So here we go. We can,
I,
they're worried about the third wave of COVID, fourth wave, or whatever is going to be here forever.
well, no, now we got the Curious George that's coming.
Yeah, we got the Curious George virus. So yeah,
I would really like to know who it is that actually would want to do that job. Like, hey, let's take a deadly disease or a non deadly disease, but let's make it deadly. And like to work around that and just to have that potential of it getting out. Like, you're literally, I can't even say you're playing God, but you're manipulating something. So, say something in actual nature. What are the chances of something like COVID actually happening? Actually mutating to be what it was without the help of man, making it what it was to begin with. Like, what are the chances of that actually happening in nature without being manipulated?
well, viruses they mutate and replicate far faster than we ever will.
100%. But this was a really weird little mixture that they had going on in their cocktail.
And I don't know. Like I'm not a epidemiologist. I don't understand viruses. This is just the information that I find, and you know, I gotta take other people's more informed opinions than my own on this. I'm a stupid truck driver. I don't know anything, so I listen to what other people say, and well, hey, kind of make sense or find more information on it, but I think it is quite common. Okay, oh my god. I think it is quite common that they do this. They do this type of stuff so that they can get in front of this, because that's ultimately what's going to kill us. Is it's going to be a virus. It's not going to be, you know, it's not the, I don't know, the animals are going to come back and fight us. No, it's going to be like a microbe. It's going to be some type of virus that's going to end up
Well,
taking us out.
you never know. At the rate we're going, who knows? Maybe, the whole zombie apocalypse thing that people talk about, maybe it's not actually going to happen to humans. Maybe the animals are going to turn into zombies and come and attack us all, and it's going to be zombie animals that are running the world. Ooh, there's a movie. Copyright.
Well, I guess well, there was a I think the big concern is if the rabies virus mutated. That's actually the closest thing that would actually replicate a zombie outbreak, would actually be a mutated version of the rabies virus. Because there is no cure for it. You can get treatment for it if you catch it early enough, but after that, it's a death sentence. You cannot be cured from rabies once you have it. After such a period, I think it's what, a week or 2 weeks or something. Anything after that, you're gonna die from it. So that's the big concern. That's the big talk, is if rabies becomes deadlier. Who knows? Maybe they're trying to gain
It's probably in
information
a
now.
lab.
Well, and that's the thing. Like they do they fuck I'm doo doo. I'm doo dooing everything. But it is common for gain of function research, and that's well, China's just full bore. That's what they do. They'll I don't know how much longer they're gonna keep doing it, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I well, not again, I never said it, but I don't know shit about this stuff. To me it seems like such a waste of money. I mean, yes, there are people who are finding cures for things, which yes, please find cures for cancer, which believe me, I believe there is one. Or Lou Gehrig's disease, or
Wait. You can't just gloss over that you believe that there's a cure for cancer.
well, there probably is a cure. They just don't want you to know it.
Who? What? All right, listen here, Alex Jones.
Conspiracy theory. No, but I forgot what I was gonna say now.
Cancer, they have a cure for it.
Right. Like, to me, that seems more like a worthwhile thing to be spending money on, is finding cures for diseases that we have instead of sitting in a lab trying to create a disease and all the money funding that goes into that. Like, to me, it just feels like there's so many better things that that money could be spent for.
Well,
Personally, I could be wrong. What do I know? I'm just a girl, but fuck. But fuck.
okay. All right. Well, on that note,
Yes,
let's
we're very childish at times.
all right. Let's go to our next article. So this was from the National Post, and it says BC is to provide up to $475,000 to First Nation communities in search of Indigenous remains.
Yes.
So, the BC government says it will provide immediate funding to 21 First Nation communities to help with searches for human remains at former residential schools or hospitals. Murray Rankin, the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, Relations and Reconciliation, said on Tuesday that each community can receive up to 475. Fuck, dude. Can receive up to 475,000 as it carries out searches, planning, technical work, and archival research, while also engaging with elder survivors and other First Nations that have an interest in the area. Surprisingly, no deadline is attached to the grants, he said, and the funding is from the $12 million the province announced last month for research at former residential school sites, as well as for mental health and cultural supports for Indigenous communities. So,
Good.
yeah, it's nice that finally during an election year that they're deciding to do something about this. But
Naturally.
they've known about this for a couple years. And I remember hearing about this back when I was a kid, back in the early '90s, mid '90s, about all this type of crap, and they always heard about this type of stuff. But it was nice that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was started to maybe finally get to the bottom of this, even though nothing was done about it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but it is nice that there's finally going to be some type of closure with this. Um, yeah, that'll be quite interesting to see what actually comes of it.
I'm
I th-
honestly scared to see, like, if they're going to keep checking out all these residential schools, like how many people that they find. Like, to me, it's just unbelievably heartbreaking. Like,
mhm,
I've had at our work, we had a guy come in and he talked about all this kind of stuff, and it was so sad. Like, I mean, yes, we've learned about it through the years, but it's becoming more and more in the forefront lately. And then to have something like this come about,
mhm,
like, my heart just breaks for all these people. And the fact that this really isn't that long ago. Like, these schools started less than 100 years ago. It was like 90 something years ago that these schools had started. And the last one closed in 1996, I believe. It's 96, 97, something like that. But that's when the last school closed. Like, I was a teenager. There were still people that could have been my age, that could have been my, fuck. I just, like, people my age could have been still in that thing.
mhm.
People my age could have parents who had horrible traumatic experiences in those things, and then having to deal with their parents going through all that trauma and the amount of trauma that these people have suffered for so long. Like, it breaks my heart. And to know that all these people are literally just unmarked in a ground someplace, away from their families, away from being able to properly set them to rest. It's heartbreaking. I know I've said that a few times, but I can't even think of a word that expresses it any better than that.
Well, and I think the what like I said, some people, like we've heard a lot of these stories, and I think it's put my kind of cynical or my skeptical hat on is because, well, because it's an election year, this is now going to be a political talking point that, oh, Trudeau, he let this happen, even though, well, it was Trudeau's dad that helped, was quite the fan of these types of schools, and he definitely had a playing hand in it, and any political party is going to take their pot shots at it, and I think they're going to exploit this for as many political points as they absolutely can. But I guess with this, I think we're up to, I think it's about 4,000 bodies have been found over these many years. And a couple things that people, I don't think that people really understand, that when there was like disease outbreaks, they would have to report if these children died, if they reported them at all. But a lot of the times, what would happen is the churches or the schools would end up taking those kids and sending them home so that they would die at home. So it would not be recorded as a death inside the school. And so that was one thing. Another one was that it was actually, I believe, it was made illegal to kind of argue with this to try and get your kids out of it. That your kids had to go to it if you were part of an Aboriginal community. So kind of what side are you going to deal with? You either deal with, well, you go to jail, or your children get sent off to the school to get tortured, raped, murdered, or whatever. Just thrown aside, literally
Well,
an inconvenience.
I mean, yes, it's those horrible things too, but also just them completely erasing their identities,
Hmm.
changing their names. Like they would change their names to things that were insulting. Like we hear them now, like whether it's like Big Bear or I don't even, I'm not even gonna say some of the ones that I remember hearing from this gentleman that came to speak with us, but they were very insulting names because they would look at someone and something would stand out on them and, oh, we're going to call you big butt, or like, I know that's not what it is, but you know what I mean. Like they would just pick something on them. I'm not saying to you, I just can't think of what to say, but they would pick something on them and or about them, and then that's what they would choose for their name. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And they would completely erase their identities. Their names were gone, their history, well, they were trying to erase their history, their language, everything. Whoa, mind blown. We were just talking about English being racist.
Well, it's
And
just
changing that. But
well, see, and history isn't always beautiful. In fact, I'd be very surprised if I didn't find one country's history that wasn't atrocious at one point.
right?
So, but you have to use it as a like look at where we were and look at where we've come from then.
Hmm.
So you like that's how you make improvements. People seen that well, at being Aboriginal was bad. You know, they were called like apples. That was a derogatory term. They were red on the outside, white on the inside.
Is that where Redskin came from?
I thought I don't know. I don't know if that's where necessarily where that came from, but that was
Makes
considered.
sense.
Yeah. So it's
Jeez.
yeah. Or, I don't know, but that was the whole plan of the government was to actually erase Aboriginals. That was their whole plan. They wanted them to either assimilate or die. So they really did not care which what happened as long as well as long as the Indian problem, as it was called by our government, was taken care
That's disgusting.
of. Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine? I mean, I can't imagine, but could you imagine being a parent, going through this stuff, having all these atrocious things happening to you in this school, and then you become a parent, and then your kids are forced to do that? Just even knowing what you went through, now my child has to go through, how damaging that would be to that
Mm-hmm.
parent. Not only the child who's living it, but the parent gets to live it twice.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. So there was well, and and like I can understand like there's the big argument in the states of like the the knock on effect of racism, like the echoes of racism are still alive and well, because there was like redlining where certain people weren't allowed to move into certain neighborhoods because of their skin color. So yeah, I can understand the knock on effect and that type of stuff and you could like there are people that very recently that we could talk to and said and they would say how they went through residential schools and it fucked them up and now they have it like they have an alcohol problem or they have this type of problem or whatever
Yeah.
and unfortunately that's a cross that Canada needs to bear and we need to do something about it.
Well, think about that. Like, think if you had to live through these horrible times and you're choosing a not good way to cope. So, say then I turn to alcohol and that's how I decide to start coping. Well, then you also went through it. You turned to drugs
Mm-hmm.
is your way in coping. Well, I got to tell you, we would not be grade A parents at that point. We would be struggling ourselves. We'd probably be taking out a lot of our anger
Papi.
on on our children. So our children get to see their parents suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go through this stuff. The parents get to live it twice. Them going through it, now watching their kids, and then the kids seeing the parents suffering and them living through it. Like this is like a vicious cycle that
Oh yeah.
it, I can't God, I am so sorry for those people.
And I can understand, like, when the arguments are made that, we still feel the echoes of racism. Okay, I get
Yeah.
that. But then why would the sudden change be from, well, because this was racist, therefore this entire country is racist, to and wanting to segregate, which is to reinstate these types of things.
Yeah, you're just literally circling back to what you're trying to fight away from.
Hmm.
Like 100%. I mean, you should be looking at these things and these horrible things that had happened in our history, learn from those. Look at it, and instead of tearing it down, be like, you know what? This is a past that I had to live, or my parents, or my grandparents, or whoever. And this is where we came today. Look at it as a how far we've come. Not everybody is racist. We have to damn the man and tear everything down. That's not going to accomplish anything.
No, I don't think it is. In fact, I think it's going to end up creating a lot more people that are intolerant. I think these types of movements are going to create a lot more racists, because now when you have people that can't even communicate with each other, or when laws are written that benefit one person and don't benefit another, well, now you start having a two-tiered system or a multi-tiered system where certain classes are protected more than others. And
Yeah.
we already have those types of problems where certain classes are protected while others aren't.
Yeah, and that's what we should be trying so hard to get away from, not circling back to the beginning again.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna put my conspiratorial hat on a little bit for this, uh, and this is something that I've thought of for a long time. That I think the government has tried to make Aboriginal communities as inhospitable as possible, so that people, because our government spends millions of dollars on these communities, and they're just kind of divvied up. So, unless my information is absolutely outdated, a lot of those communities don't own that land. That is still considered crown land. So they actually have no ties to the land that they're placed on. The government, like I said, unless this has changed, and if it has, I would love to be corrected. But last I knew was, because it's crown land, and there was a stipulation that if the land was found valuable, they could kick those people off the land and they'd have to relocate them.
Well, hold on. But aren't, again, I don't know any of this. I would think that people on reserves, that's their land. Is it not?
I think it is in a certain extent, but I'm pretty sure that there's a stipulation that the Canadian government can move these people if the land is deemed too valuable. So if there's like mining, or if there's any types of like natural resources, or stuff like that, those that they could move them. It'd be really a, any government that did it would look really bad on them. But I think if they actually wanted to, they probably could. Like I said, unless my information is out of date, but I think that's what they've done. They tried to make these communities, well, there's no clean drinking water. In terms of food, it's it's all like gas station food. It's not the same type of stuff that we could find at a grocery store. It's I used to deliver up there. I used to deliver to reserves, and that's a lot of what it is. It's like potato chips, drinks, canned foods, vegetables. Well, even in Pegwest Reserve, when I delivered up there, yeah, there was vegetables, but holy, a jug of milk costs way more than it costs for us to get anyone close to a city. It costs a lot of money for any type of fresh produce, or any fresh foods. Period.
Well, I know a lot of places more up north, things are a lot more expensive. And especially the more remote they are, the trickier that they are to get to. it's going to be a lot more expensive.
Well, and there was one thing that I was hearing about certain remote communities. They get extra money if they're considered an isolated community. So if there is no permanent road that could actually get there. So if I think of like Cross Lake, they have a road and it stops at a river, and then you have to take a ferry across. They've been trying to
Okay.
put a bridge there, and they have said no, they don't want it because then they would lose their isolated status, so they lose a bunch of money. It's
So, but what is the money giving them?
it helps pay for the community, helps pay for maintenance in this community. You know,
Well,
job.
I'm just thinking of your comment that you said like that they don't have like clean drinking water and stuff like that. Like if they're getting more money,
Mm-hmm.
why don't they have these things? Why can't they have these things? I- why are they not making sure that they have these things? Like why is the government not or the community or I don't even know how this shit works, but like
My assumption would be that it is a multi-million-dollar project just to source clean drinking water. And if you have to source that into every single community, that's hundreds of communities, if not 1,000 communities in Canada. In fact, I'm sure it's 1,000 is a low number. So if you have to spend $4 or $5 million on a water treatment plant to give filtered water to a community, you have to run all those pipes. I think the amount of money that would be needed is uh, probably in the hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. And I think it would the government would just look at it, well, like I said, my conspiratorial hat says they tried to make it so inhospitable, try to make it so hard on these communities that people want to leave, and then they can just throw up their hands. And we tried our best. We tried to make it good for these communities. We've given
telling them
them
they can
all
take
this
their
money.
land.
Well, not even no, well, not even necessarily that, but then they don't have to fork out $100 million every year or whatever it is to keep these communities up and running. The government doesn't have to foot that bill. They can just give it away. Like they don't have to worry about it anymore. My thought has always been that they give the land back. Like give them whatever land that they agree on, however big it is. Give it to them. They own it. That is theirs to own. It's not a community's land, and you have no say in it. I think once they like I think Peguis did this where they own everyone owns their property. Their own plot of land is theirs. It's not a community, it's not government.
Like each individual person who lives in that reserve, they have their own land.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they actually try to do something. They try to make a business out of something. They try to do farming or agriculture. Like they actually try and produce something instead of, well, I get, I don't know, $2, $3, $4,000 a month from the government. Why do I need to do anything? There's no incentive to, I guess, even keep your heritage. Well, because the government's just kind of just letting them do it. So I don't know. It's a really I think it's a really big complicated mess, and I don't know. I wonder if that one might be the easiest solution is just to give them their land, and the people own it. They own it themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you for that insightful opinion.
I concur.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on to the last article today, and it's from the Good News Network. I want to try and finish off on a positive note, and this one's a bit of a if you're an animal lover or you got a soft heart, get your pet and bring him close. Because anyways,
Ruh-roh.
so this article says or is titled "Man gives his terminally ill dog one last walk up their beloved mountain in a wheelbarrow." Says these touching pictures show a man taking his dying pet dog up his favorite mountain on one last walk in a wheelbarrow. 10-year-old Monty enjoyed exploring hills and walks all over Wales with his owner Carlos Fresco. The pair has visited the Brecon Beacons many times over the years, and he had I can't read apparently, and have even summited the three peaks. But after becoming aware of the Labradoodle's, but after becoming aware the Labradoodle wasn't very well. Okay, so it's how it's written. It's not me. Becoming aware that the Labradoodle wasn't very well, Carlos decided to return to the beacon, staying with friends in Brecon so they could share one last journey together. Carlos and Monty traveled up the peaks of Penwyfan. I'm sorry. Where many walkers stopped to say hello and meet Monty, who was helped to the top with the aid of a wheelbarrow. And you can see there's just a couple pictures of the dog in a wheelbarrow with a pillow and a blanket and his favorite stuffed animal. And it was just I think it was a really nice and touching story. There's one comment, or I guess a quote from Carlos said, "I knew Monty was dying as his cancer had returned. He was diagnosed 18 months ago and responded very well to chemotherapy. But unfortunately, his leukemia returned 8 weeks ago and he declined very rapidly. He loved hill walks and we improvised and took him on trips around your wonderful beacons. Although he was weak, he enjoyed all the fuss and attention received by so many well-wishers." And it was just it was so nice to see how many people actually ended up coming out, and a puppy got one last one last chance to go to places that he loved before he finally moved on. And that's it was just a nice little story. I figure it's a nice way to end episode 1.
Yeah, and you got me all teary-eyed.
Again.
These pictures are horrible. I mean, they're not horrible. They're beautiful pictures. It's just so sad.
Yeah.
Beautifully sad, but just sad.
Aw. He was truly a special boy, Carlos said. God bless and good night, little fella.
Oh, God. What'd you do that for?
Uh-huh.
Oh, such a suck with animals.
Yeah, no, it was, I don't know. Animals are they're quite the interesting thing that we've decided to fuck around with. But I guess in with that little article, I didn't really want to comment on it. It was just a really nice, touching story, and it's quite amazing the lengths that people will go to ensure that their animals have almost a better life than I think they even give themselves. And it's
yeah, actually, there are. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of horrible people out there who treat animals absolutely horribly, but you see people who will treat animals better than they treat their neighbors. And seem to have more of a heart. I don't.
Yeah. No, it was just a nice little story. But I guess to wrap up our first ever episode, I did want to close with a quote, and it was from Horace Mann, and it says, "Be ashamed to die until you have scored a point for humanity." And all I thought was with this was, leaving the world a better place than how you found it. And I think being able to show more caring in the world, more compassion in the world, instead of trying to tear people apart and try and one up and I think just overall just hurt people. I wish we could. I wish that we could look at the achievements that people have made and the terrible things that have happened and say, we've come out on the other side of this better. And and in terms of, well, I guess with our kids, I think of the same thing. I want to leave the world so that they have more opportunities than I ever had. giving them a life and giving them, you know, the information and the resources so that they could be more than what I ever thought I could be. And I think if we were more selfless, like to think like that I want to do something for someone else, even though I don't benefit from it. Maybe, if I get sent to a nice old care home, when I'm finally.
Here's hoping. I don't know if y'all can hear me, kids, but one with a bowl. Ooh, and a hot tub. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. But yeah, I think with that, I'd like to thank everyone that listened. It's been it's almost an hour already, but it was for episode 1, and I enjoyed our little conversation here.
Me too.
Right,
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everyone, and you guys all have a good night. Thank you.